lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan.
And I'm Manny.
Today we're going to be talking about an issue of Justice League from the Keith Giffen, James DeMatteis, and Kevin Maguire run. And we've already talked about we talked about the collection that I believe had the first 7 issues that kind of leads us into when the title ends up becoming Justice League International, which is, I think, mostly what people think of when they think of this run. They call it the Justice League International run, even though for 6 issues it was just Justice League. So this is for anybody that's not as familiar with this, it's the run, came out after Crisis on Infinite Earths. There wasn't a Justice League, I believe, following Crisis for maybe about a year. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like there wasn't a team. But yeah, so when they bring them back, they kind of incorporated, some characters when they merged the Earth, like Captain Marvel. When all the multiverses merged, he was now folded into the history of the DC universe. And then I think also Blue Beetle, which was one of the Charlton characters, he was also folded
Booster
in.
Gold. Well, Booster Gold was a DC creation.
Yeah, Booster Gold was created by DC, but it was just a cool, weird kind of collection of heroes. Definitely different than before. But anyways, the reason we're talking about this issue, one of them was that when Keith Giffen passed, rest in peace, we wanted to talk about some Keith Giffen books, and I figured, why not spotlight this issue? Because as you can see, it's Batman versus Guy Gardner, the showdown. And it's the punch heard around the world that happens in this issue. So it is only one panel, but it was enough to make me want to talk about this specific issue again. So,
and it's honestly probably one of the most, if you're a comics fan, even if you haven't read this run, everyone knows about this moment. It's one of those really huge moments in comics that it just permeated the culture, man.
Yeah.
And the way, I can only imagine the way it was executed when this was new, just made it even fucking funnier.
I know, and look at this cover. Can you imagine seeing this on the stands?
Yeah, exactly.
If I was
you're holy shit.
I don't think, I could be wrong, but I feel like comic shops were probably not as prevalent. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was a lot in the late 80s, actually. But, these were still coming out in the newsstand. So comic books were a little bit more, I think, more accessible. At least you didn't have to go to a comic store to get it. But to see this as you're going through comics, we talked about this too, the way they, they have whether it's word balloons or some sort of thing to kind of pull you in, and it had to happen. Batman versus Guy Gardner showdown, that in and of itself would make you want to go inside the book. But then you see Guy Gardner's face.
Yeah, you see Martian Manhunter and Captain Marvel holding him back. You're like, bro, those two guys are powerhouses, and they're holding him back. You're like, this is going to be a fight for the ages, man.
And I love that if you look, he doesn't even have the ring on. I love this issue. I love this whole run. I've read the first arc so many times, but
I've read it a few times too.
Yeah, and this one, while that is kind of the catch to pull you into the story, this one is about this character called the Gray Man. He's going after Dr. Fate.
And I love the concept of the Gray Man, and there's almost something Vertigo-esque about him and this storyline in general. It's very bizarre. Dr. Fate is a big part of it. There's a lot of talk about chaos and order and all these esoteric concepts. It's really an interesting issue within this arc.
Yes, because it is kind of almost a one and done. It carries over into the next issue, but it definitely reads like a complete story still, and that's something that you don't see in modern comics. You definitely don't see that. You definitely, stuff's written for the trade more so than it was back then. I will say this though, reading this comic with this tiny ass lettering was hard for my aging eyes.
It was
very difficult. I was like, I don't remember this being this hard to kind of focus in on. And I don't know if it's the newsprint, because obviously on newsprint, anybody that reads comics in newsprint knows that sometimes the ink gets a little I don't want to say smudgy, but it kind of
you get a blurred effect, almost like if you need reading glasses.
Yeah, so it was a little bit of a challenge, but Oh, another thing, I love Dr. Fate. I recently went through the Giffen and DeMatteis run from '87 that they did, a 4-issue run. Really great story. Highly recommend that too. But I love, Dr. Fate. I just love his design. The fact that he lives in Salem is really
Yeah,
cool. And as he's coming up to his headquarters, he like notices something, and and then he fucking goes off, and it's all about the Gray Man narrating, by the way, and how he's trying to go at Dr. Fate. Then we
great
get
narration too. Again,
oh yeah, then we meet Jack Ryder, who, if you know DC Comics, you off top already know who he is, the Creeper.
Yeah, Steve
Great.
Ditko creation.
Yep. So we get him kind of introduced in the mix. I love this dude with his fucking mullet. Yeah, that's how you know
Yes,
they're in the
dude.
80s.
And his late night with David Letterman sweatshirt.
So funny, dude. I love, look
Yeah,
at it. Even like the buck teeth
dude.
too.
Again, we mentioned it so much with Kevin Maguire's faces, man. And like, and then when you've got Giffen and DeMatteis writing the dialogue, like as serious as this story kind of gets, and I mentioned at the beginning of the video that there's almost a Vertigo like quality to its weirdness.
Yeah.
This issue still has some fucking hysterical shit in it.
Yeah. I do like that though. They know how to like, most people think of this run and they're like, it's hilarious, right? But there is a lot of serious moments in it
And
too.
there's genuine stakes involved. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
like people who haven't read it. I don't want you all to think that this is all like wahaha, which is like the famous laugh they created for this. Like there is a lot of that, but like you said, they balance it with genuine action and genuine dramatic moments too.
Yeah. You know how you're also in the 80s? When he only offers him $100 and he's like, okay. I was
Yeah,
like,
oh
I
man.
was like, dude, I'm not getting out of bed for $100, bro. What are you talking
Yeah, dude.
about?
Yeah.
Like, get the fuck out of here. And he's like, for that much money, you better keep our secret. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
that's nothing now. But I mean, obviously, you could tell like the cover price of this book was 75 cents. So, and now there's
Yeah,
$4.99. So
that's
you
true.
could tell the inflation right there. But I love that, and like I love how we keep going like back and forth, and like they really know how to juggle a large cast of characters in a
Yeah.
really good way. I
And the
love,
pacing is great too.
yeah, and I love these contrasting pages here with the Gray Man in this long panel, and he's like almost divided in half in shadow. Always,
Great
you notice
shadow
that, right?
work, man.
Yeah, I love this. I never sleep, I never dream, and it's all your fault. Oh my god, dude! Like he's just hates it. He's stuck in a gray, dreamless world.
Yeah, he's kind of like stuck in between
Yeah,
waking and dreaming. Again, maybe that's just me like making connections with Sandman in my brain or something. But it's a very bizarre story. Creepy.
no,
I would say it's creepy.
it definitely gave me Sandman vibes too. And like this
Yeah,
almost could have been a villain or an antagonist within Sandman.
yeah. Or Animal Man, or like one of those early Vertigo before it was Vertigo. Is,
Mm-hmm.
is is like the vibe I'm getting. Like that early, like when Karen Berger was just bringing all them dudes together to create all those books, like that, and even the art. You know what I mean? Like has that kind of quality to it.
I love that he's able to capture Dr. Fate too, because Dr. Fate's one of the most powerful characters in
Yeah,
DC. And Gray Man is just able to completely trap him within this, like, I'm assuming this is meant to be like a gray kind of like bubble.
yeah,
It looks kind of
yeah,
purplish to me as I'm reading it. But
yeah. I see it, especially like the outline around Doctor Fate there.
yeah.
And I love like the little origin we get for the Gray Man. Like he's very old.
Yeah, and they don't really say like where he's from, but I'm assuming this is somewhere in like the Middle East. I mean, based on the
Yeah,
architecture,
I'm thinking almost like
it reminds me of Aladdin.
Babylonia, Mesopotamia.
It
Yeah,
reminds me of
like
Aladdin a little bit.
this is like pre-Christian worlds here. Almost like
Yeah. So this dude's old as fuck. And it kind of makes sense that he would have some sort of like history with Dr. Fate too, because you think about, Dr. Fate comes from Egypt, right? Naboo, all that stuff with the Hawkman.
yeah,
At least in the way they've tied it into Hawkman and the more modern stuff. I don't think he
right,
was
yeah. Because at one
that's
point he was even Hector Hall, who was Hawkman's son.
well, he's Hector Hall here.
Yeah. No, I know he's not the current, but you're correct. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
Hector Hall, who's
Yeah.
Carter Hall's son.
And now we get the Lords of Order, which, the Lords of Order, Lords of Chaos, that's all firmly entwined within Dr. Fate. And this it's funny because this falls perfectly in line with kind of what that Dr. Fate miniseries was about. I'm imagining that I think they were coming out almost around the same time, or I think when Dr. Fate ends up leaving this book, which he leaves at the end of issue 6, he doesn't join the team. I think that that's where it leads into the next one, because then there's a new Dr. Fate. But look at this, dude. And for my daring, for my hubris, I would be punished.
Yeah, I love that image. I love the next page too, like the panel with all the gray men.
Basically showing what happens when you're trying to toy with forces that are far above what you should be dealing with, and that's what happens. He got punished for doing that. It's kind of like when Krona and the Guardians from Green Lantern, right? When he goes back in time and like looks at the creation of the universe, and he ends up making the multiverse.
Yes,
because of that, because he toys with it. So I always love that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I do like this panel with all the gray men. I love this smug look on his face because he goes through so many emotions. He goes through anger. He looks like he's almost in pain there,
Yeah.
And
I love that panel with half his face in the shadows too.
Yeah. Well, you notice most of the time it is, except here.
Yeah.
Then you see his eyes, and they're just completely gray. Yeah, it's such a good idea for a villain, dude.
I love that the movie showing is Timothy Dalton in The Living Daylights, like the old James Bond movie. And again, like this is like really excellent, like super villain monologuing, and like it's creepy and serious, and like Giffen and DeMatteis are firing on all cylinders with this kind of dialogue, man. Like I mean, one of the greatest teams in comic books right here,
Yeah. I mean, look what he wants to do too. First of all, Dr. Fate's not even responding. He's stuck frozen, right? Yeah. And he's basically giving away all his plans, which all villains do. And he's going to just take he's going to take the ability to dream away from all men. So everybody will be gray men. And that way lies madness and far, far worse, he says. And then here we go.
Basically, he wants to drive the world insane. Yeah. And now we get to what we've been talking about.
See, even when the characters are in the background, he gives them fucking like Mr. Miracle right here, Booster Gold, Captain Marvel. They all are making different faces. Like they're not just stationary. I love that about his art.
They're captured like in movement, like
I love when guys try to become the leader, and he thinks he should command the team. And Batman's like, I'd sooner turn it over to Captain Marvel. And he's just like, hey.
And it happens several times, so it's like a running joke. It's funny, like it's like he's like, I'm in the room, guys, and you guys are talking about me like I'm a moron. And then I also love this because the way that DeMatteis and Giffen write Batman, like he's such a, I mean, Guy Gardner's an asshole in this, but Batman ain't far behind either.
No, not at all. I mean, look at him. Guy calls him a gutless pansy, and he's just like standing there with his hands behind his back and this isn't a kennel, guy, so stop acting like a mongrel. And then Guy's just like, that does it. He takes a ring and gives it to Blue Beetle. He goes right at him, dude. And then Captain Marvel.
Blue Beetle,
like Captain Marvel makes a good point. He's like, as leader of the league, you should be providing an example. If you stoop to his level, well, and he's like, I know what I'm doing here. And maybe when you've had my years of experience, you will too. Till then, keep out of this. Like he is a dick.
I love this. Like, now, Guy, there was something you wanted to do to me. Yeah, after I break your arms and legs, all bark and no bite. Oh, I bite all right. And then Captain Marvel like mumbling, like
this is.
Remember, he's a 15-year-old kid too.
Yeah, so. Yeah. He's a little kid. I love, and he's like, I bite, and this is one of the best page turns in all of comic books that I've ever read in my entire life, dude.
I wish, and maybe I should just do it myself. I want a T-shirt with the panel we're about to show.
I think I'm gonna get one made. I just need
let's do it, dude. We can have matching shirts.
Yes. And then you get
just a black T-shirt with that panel, dude. Come on now,
yeah, the punch, dude. Just all you see is the fist coming in. And then the
Blue Beetle just like leaning back, laughing, like one punch, like.
And then another great moment is the fact that Black Canary is so pissed that she missed it.
Yeah.
And Martian Manhunter, like even his like little smirk. Sorry, we're late, Batman. And Blue Beetle still keeps saying one punch.
And he's rubbing his eye underneath the goggle too. Like that little detail. The thing about this run is the way that all these creators came together to bring so much little details. Like you could
Mm-hmm.
tell that they really worked in tandem to make something that like warrants rereading. Because like you know, like you don't really might not notice like little details like that on your first read. So when
Yeah,
you read it again, it's even more rewarding. I mean, it's a classic run for many reasons, man.
I agree. And then we get Dr. Fate is contacting them through the monitor, asking for them to come to his aid because of the gray man. And I love too,
Yeah,
like throughout that too, you still have Black Canary in her head thinking like, I missed it, I missed it, I missed it. Like
yeah, yeah.
she's still pissed. So now the team's gonna go. I love that Captain Marvel is thinking this much as he's going, because obviously he's a young kid still, right,
Yeah,
in an adult body. So he's like, oh, I hope Emma's not mad at me, and like that kind of thinking, and it helps to kind of really reiterate the type of character that Captain Marvel is, because like even though you become an adult and you could act, like there's still some of you in there. And then I love this like McDonald's sign down at the bottom.
yeah.
What does it say? Party? No.
Party tonight.
Yeah, party tonight. Yeah.
They're taking the bug over.
And then they'll get the creeper coming in. I like that he came in for a couple of issues. And
Yeah,
then you
I
see
did
him with the
too.
paint because he's the one that painted the sign.
Did the sign? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, dude. I mean, kind of a weird character to throw into the mix, but that's what I love
I
about
love
this
this
run.
last page too, man. Like just like there's almost something like Lovecraftian about all
The buildings
the
being
the
transformed.
buildings
Yeah.
away. Yeah, yeah, and like the lettering there, and great issue, man. It might be my favorite issue in this run.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I mean, there's a lot of great issues, but I think that this first arc was really like probably my favorite. And then in this first arc, I think this was definitely had to be my favorite issue. I mean, there's just so
Yeah,
much in it. If you guys have not read this run, anybody listening, watching, go check it out. I know they've released the omnibus. I don't know if it's in like smaller trade paperbacks, but they're easy to find online if you search for them. But definitely, I think every comic book fan should read this because
yes,
it's
yes.
easily one of the best things to come out in the history of comics, in my opinion, and definitely like one of the best DC, one of the best 80s books. So go pick it up. Check out the rest of the stuff we got on the channel. We got some other Keith Giffen stuff. We got some other dope playlists on there. Check all those out. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, we're out.
Catch you next time, guys.